Jeff, I know it's only mid-September, but out here at Matinicus Rock Lighthouse, it's turning brisk.
Well, we're 18 miles off the coast of Maine on this little 32-acre island, so we don't have much protection from the ocean winds. Plus, if you look around, it's not like there's trees or shrubs or much of anything here besides rocks.
Yeah, maybe we should head over to the refuge of the lighthouse.
We can do that, but I feel like I should warn you. That place is haunted. Hey, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 57 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
Now, we're on a mission to chronicle every legend in New England, 1 week and one story at a time.
That's it.
Not only are you invited to come along each week, but we want to make you a part of the legend. Share your stories in our super secret Facebook group, or you can call or text our legend line anytime at 617-444-9683.
Call me.
Sometimes, that was creepy. Was that you?
That was me.
Oh, good. Okay. Sometimes we share your voicemail stories right in the podcast right here.
You can also contact us through our website. You can watch videos, find out all about my fall story tour, and see photos associated with every one of our past podcasts on our website at ournewenglandlegends.com.
All right, Jeff. Matinicus Rock Lighthouse. It's haunted? You sure we should go inside?
Ray, come on. Since when has a ghost kept us out of anywhere?
That's a good point.
There are actually two legends here. It turns out the ghost is just one of them. So this week it's a 2-for-1 special.
Nice.
Though I wonder if maybe these two legends are more closely related than people may think. But first, the ghost.
So we're in this stone building, which would have been the lightkeeper's quarters. This place goes way back.
Well, how far back?
Like President John Quincy Adams back.
Whoa.
The construction of this light was authorized by the president and Congress back in 1827 because this was a growing shipping lane with vessels heading to Penobscot Bay, which at first this was actually two lighthouses 40 feet apart with the stonekeeper's quarters in between them. But this original structure didn't last long.
What happened?
Well, in February of 1842, a mighty storm pounded the island. High seas pushed waves up and over the land.
Whoa.
The building and the lighthouses were hammered. Seawater rushed in waist deep on the first floor, forcing lighthouse keeper Samuel Abbott and his family to take refuge in the attic, while the wind and surf practically demolished the kitchen portion of the house. Abbott later said,
"Had not a sudden shift of wind ensued, I believe another shock would have entirely destroyed the building."
In 1846, the old stone house became a storage shed, and the new stone dwelling was built, as well as two stone lighthouse towers, this time further apart than before.
Okay.
And 90 feet above the water line.
Got it.
Now, this facility was built to handle the brutal seas along the Maine coast.
If we look out the window today, we can see that the old North Tower no longer has any light on top of it. That light was extinguished in 1883. Sailors complained that from a certain perspective at sea, Matinicus Rock Light looked like a single light, and that was confusing for navigation.
I get that. If you're directly in line with both lights, you might think it's a single light.
Exactly. So every lighthouse in the world has its own signature. It's based on color, amount of flashes, and things like that. So a sailor knows exactly which lighthouse he's approaching. This now defunct North Tower is where our ghost resides.
All right, what happened?
The story comes to us from Horace Beck's 1957 book, The Folklore of Maine. Beck sailed out to Matinicus Rock to meet with some of the Coast Guard crew who manned the station. The crew told him stories.
What kind of stories?
Well, the Coast Guard had heard tales of an old lighthouse keeper who hanged himself in the North Tower. And ever since then, he still haunts the lighthouse, especially on dark, windy nights. This ghost would slam doors, break dishes, and cause problems with the station and the light. They even gave this troubled spirit the nickname of Mo.
Mo? That's not scary at all.
I guess if you're afraid of something, give it a silly name. So eventually the crew discovered the only way to keep this ghost at bay was to lock up the North Tower forever.
Well, as if a ghost can't pass through locked doors?
So it doesn't have to make sense, but it seemed to work.
Okay.
For a while, until a Coast Guard officer came for an inspection. He didn't want to hear any nonsense about ghosts, so he demanded they unlock the North Tower. The crew did as they were told, but that night, all of the lights on the island failed.
All of them?
They couldn't light their beacons. Now, seamen are a superstitious bunch to begin with, so not wanting to risk any further trouble, they locked up the North Tower once again and seemed to have no further troubles. The light was automated in 1983.
All right, hold on. I have questions.
Okay, ask away.
All right, is there any record of a suicide in the North Tower?
None. Horace Beck admitted back then he could find no record of a suicide anywhere on the small island, and neither did we.
All right, so if the backstory isn't true, do you think that means there's no ghost here, maybe?
Well, not exactly. Enter legend number 2 at Matinicus Rock Light. The year is 1853, and lighthouse keeper Samuel Burgess is named keeper of Matinicus Rock Light. Burgess moves in with his invalid wife, Thankful.
Wait. The wife's name is Thankful?
Yeah, this was back during a time when women were sometimes named for virtues like prudence and modesty, mercy, faith, and even thankful.
Okay, I got it.
So Samuel and Thankful move into the lighthouse keeper's quarters with several of their 10 children. The couple's oldest daughter living at the station is Abbie, who learned from a young age how to trim the lantern wicks, light the whale oil lamps, and perform all the duties of the lighthouse, all while caring for her sick mother and younger siblings.
I can't imagine what life was like on this rock back then. I mean, nothing grows here. No trees. It's not like you can plant flowers or tend to a garden. It's just so desolate.
Yeah.
It must have gotten pretty lonely out there.
I'm sure you're right. And for young Abbie, things are about to get a lot tougher. It's January of 1856, and Samuel takes the sailboat out to the mainland for some much-needed supplies for his family and the light. He expected to only be gone a day or two, but the weather turns as he approaches Penobscot Bay. Back at Matinicus Rock Light, 16-year-old Abbie watched as the skies turned dark and the sea grew angry. She wrote all about her harrowing experience.
As the tide rose, the sea made a complete breach over the rock, washing every movable thing away, and of the old dwelling not one stone was left upon another. As the tide came, the sea rose higher and higher, till the only endurable places were the light towers. If they stood, we were saved. Otherwise, our fate was only too certain.
The day wore on. So too did the storm.
The hens were our only companions. Becoming convinced as the gale increased that unless they were brought into the house they would be lost, I said to my mother, I must try to save them. She advised me not to attempt it. The thought, however, of parting with them without an effort was not to be endured. So seizing a basket, I ran out a few yards after the rollers had passed, and the sea fell off a little, with the water knee-deep to the coop, and rescued all but one. It was the work of a moment, and I was back in the house with the door fastened, but none too quick, for at that instant my little sister, standing at the window, exclaimed, "Oh, look there! The worst sea is coming!" That wave destroyed the old dwelling and swept the rock. The sea is never still, and when agitated, its roars shut out every other sound, even drowning our voices.
This storm pounded the tiny island and the lighthouse. As night fell, the storm hardly subsided. By the next day, it was clear the tempest was there for the long haul. Hours turned to days, and Abbie kept her mother and sisters safe in the lighthouse tower. Though the storm passed after a few days, the seas remained too rough to attempt any landing of a boat. Still, Abbie pressed on.
For some reason, I know not why, I had no misgivings and went on my work as usual. For 4 weeks, owing to rough weather, no landing could be effected on the rock. During this time, we were without assistance of any male member of our family. Though at times greatly exhausted by my labors, not once did the lights fail. Under God, I was able to perform all my accustomed duties, as well as my father's.
Abbie Burgess was heroic. Under horrible circumstances, she kept her family safe and kept the light lit.
Yeah.
It's unknown how many ships and souls she saved during those 4 rough weeks by never letting Matinicus Rock Light go dim. But everyone who heard the story of the 16-year-old girl who served as lighthouse keeper on a desolate rock during one of the region's worst storms ever propelled her to legend status.
They breed them a little tougher in Maine, don't they?
They do. Abbie Burgess never left the lighthouse life. She went on to marry the son of Matinicus Rock Light's next keeper, and then earned the appointment and salary of assistant keeper at $440 per year.
All right.
The couple had 4 children out here before they relocated to Whitehead Light in Penobscot Bay in 1875. She served there the rest of her relatively short life. In an 1891 letter, she reflected on her past.
Sometimes I think the time is not far distant when I shall climb these lighthouse stairs no more. It has almost seemed to me that the light was part of myself. Many nights I have watched the lights my part of the night, and then could not sleep the rest of the night, thinking nervously what might happen should the lights fail.
Abbie Burgess Grant died a year later in 1892. She was only 53 years old.
Wow. So these claims that Matinicus Rock Light being haunted, I believe them.
You do?
I do. I think there is a ghost here, but it's not some lonely old keeper who took his own life. I think it's a heroic woman who embodied the best of what the world could ever ask of any lighthouse keeper. Perhaps the ghost isn't Mo. Maybe it's Abbie Burgess, still tending to her duties in the ultimate monument to her life. We'll leave you with the closing words of her 1891 letter.
I wonder if the care of the lighthouse will follow my soul after it has left this worn-out body. If I ever have a gravestone, I would like it in the form of a lighthouse or beacon.
Man, that's an amazing tale.
I agree.
Abbie Burgess Grant is a true New England legend, if you think about it.
Yeah.
As a postscript to the story, historian Edward R. Snow read Abbie's letter and took it upon himself to help organize efforts to make Abbie's final wish come true. In 1945, Snow traveled to Spruce Head Cemetery, where Abbie is buried, and placed a small lighthouse monument by her headstone.
If you want to see pictures of this amazing woman, plus historic photos of Matinicus Rock Lighthouse, go to our website at ournewenglandlegends.com and click on episode 57.
We'd like to thank Lorna Nagara and Michael Legge for lending their voice acting talents this week. And our theme music, of course, is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.